And I don't know why I said yes, which is funny because I was against God.
How does it feel to be responsible? I would say for so many lives.
Yeah, it's probably been decades. And not that I'm always great at it.
This is the point so many people miss today.
It seemed even surprising to me, so it didn't seem like it was my own idea. On the Sabbath, I try to, stop work for 24 hours. I couldn't imagine that would be the person I was going to marry, but I felt God tell me that that's who I was going to marry.
Dr. Rachels, it is such an honor to meet with you today and to talk to you. Thank you for accepting the invitation to this interview.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to do it.
So, Calvary Christian Academy, 25 years. It is such a blessing for so many parents because our kids, I say our kids because our kids, my kids, go to this school too. It is a safe environment, amazing teachers, and they grow both spiritually and academically, and we can see that growth, and we're so happy about it.
Good.
They get to know God more here.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. No, it's a joy for me to be able to do it and to have my kids here too.
3 of your kids, they graduated already, or?
Yeah, so I have 2 who've done pre-K through 12th all the way through and graduated and gone on to college and beyond. And then I have another one who's in 7th grade. So we still have 5 more years for her.
And you are the president of the school for 11 years.
Yes.
Right? What does Calvary Christian Academy mean to you personally?
No, it's the best place I've ever worked. I'll say that for sure. Amazing team of people that God's brought together in terms of teachers, teacher assistants, principals, administrators, and then I'm also a dad, so it's been a wonderful place to have my kids and to see them, growing up, and like you said, growing academically, but also growing spiritually in their walk with God. And so great to have a place that reinforces what I'm trying to teach them at home, and really pointing them towards God all the way through school. So it's been a wonderful place, a great ministry that I know is changing a lot of kids' lives. Yeah.
How does it feel to be responsible for, I would say, for so many lives?
No, I appreciate it. I think I carry it lightly, just knowing that God is in control and that I just have my, part to play, and I'll try to play it faithfully, but knowing that He has a whole team of, I think we're about 640 staff who are all doing their parts in the classroom, outside of the classroom, making it all flow each day across the 4 campuses. So yeah, I think I am able to carry it lightly, knowing that God's got it under control and uses the whole team to make it happen.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And Dr. Rachels, could you share with us the moments of your life when you needed God's answer, and maybe He encouraged you through His word, maybe He gave you a vision, a dream, maybe He even stopped you from doing something, or the opposite, He encouraged you to keep going?
Yeah, no, good thought. I think, I think that so often God could be nudging me and guiding me all through, many days, and a lot of times. But there are some specific times that stand out more than others, and, I can share. One was when I had met who would be my wife, Jennifer Lee. She lived like 13 hours away from, where I lived, and I couldn't imagine, or I guess it was more like 10 hours. I I couldn't imagine that that would be the person I was going to marry, but I felt God tell me that that's who I was going to marry. And
Very
so,
important question in life,
yeah,
right?
yeah, no, and it seemed like, almost shocking because it's someone I had just met on a trip, um, and uh, I liked her, but it seemed like, living as far away as she did, I couldn't imagine that somehow that would come together. But driving back from that trip where I met her, there were a whole lot of people on the trip. I mean, it was a couple of buses of youth group kids doing whitewater rafting and all kinds of things. Um, but on the way back from that trip, I felt God tell me that's who I was going to marry. It seemed surprising, but it turned out to be accurate. And she had felt a similar thing as well, of God telling her that I was the one she was going to marry. So that's one instance. Let me tell you some others as well.
And how did you understand that God is saying yes? Was it just a feeling, strong feeling inside of you, or maybe other
Yeah, there's no audible voice or
signs?
anything. Just as I was heading back, I just felt him impress that idea on me that
Mm.
that is the person you're going to marry. Jennifer is, and again, like I say, to where it seemed even surprising to me. So it didn't seem like it was my own idea. It was like, really, I mean, I
Why
like the
was that
idea.
surprising? Because you just met?
Yeah, we had only met and just got to know each other a little bit, and she lived in a whole other state. This is when we were both in college, and so I was at Mercer University in Georgia. She was at University of Florida in Gainesville, but at this time even living down in Coral Springs. So yeah, just the distance. It seemed hard to imagine that we would have an opportunity to develop a relationship, and that would lead to marriage. But we did. So
After how many years?
let's see here. So that was my sophomore. I think that was the sophomore summer. So I was probably around 20, and then we got married at 22. Yeah.
So 2 years later.
Yeah. So we dated during college, and then not long after college, we were able to get married.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Then, if we're talking about this, what would be your advice for those people who are still waiting to meet their person?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, don't assume that God is going to speak to you directly about it, because He doesn't necessarily do that for everybody. I think my advice for that would be to try to, I'd say, first and foremost, be seeking after God yourself. Let that be your focus, is knowing Him, and then also work to become the kind of person who would be the best husband or wife. And then I'd say be plugged in at your church and other places where you have a real good chance to maybe meet someone who is a solid believer.
It's a great advice. Thank you.
Oh,
And
thank
you
you.
wanted to continue, right? There were
I,
other
other
situations.
times, yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Hmm.
Another time that I felt like God was speaking to me was when we were actually considering starting the school here. So I was a Bible teacher at Coral Springs Christian, which is about 10 miles from here. But I was attending church here, and I was asked to be part of a small group of about 10 people who were going to be exploring the idea of starting a school here. And so we thought about, should we or shouldn't we? And if so, what would the mission of the school be? And so through all of that, it was very interesting. And then they came to a point where they said, okay, we are going to do it, and we think it's time to hire the first full-time person to come on staff to be working towards this. And I felt like God telling me that I was supposed to be that person. And so I went home, talked to my wife, Jennifer. She was good with the idea, and further explored it, with the people here, and they seemed to be good with the idea. And worked with my current school, because it meant stepping out of school mid-year in order to start the work here, in order to be able to open a school by August. And thankfully, my headmaster was willing to work with me and let me step out and find ways to cover my classes. So I felt like him telling me I would be the one, and then I was the first full-time person. And not for this role, I was an assistant principal, but I was able to come on staff and begin interviewing families, interviewing staff, and just helping to get things in place for the start of school. So that was another time. And there have been others, here and there in different ways, but I'll say some of the time where I feel God's presence the most and him sort of impressing things on my heart is really on the Sabbath. I try to, stop work for 24 hours, if you will, we usually go to Saturday night church. So I usually, try to stop around 5 o'clock on Saturday and not do much work of any sort until the evening the next day, in general. And during that time, I get to have some longer periods of time alone with God, maybe sitting outside or in the hammock, things like that. And just sitting there quietly with God, not even, I will read the Bible and pray, but I'll also just sit in silence with him. And during those longer periods of time sitting in silence with him, I often feel closest to him and him impressing things on my heart, usually something along the lines of how he's got it all covered. I don't need to worry or be anxious, that he's in control, how he loves me, how he doesn't need me to perform for him, but rather, he just is that we are, I'm his son. And so that's a great time that makes me want to continue to do that and spend that time together with him.
This is so amazing. And I think this is the point so many people miss today, because when God told us, don't work 1 day a week, try not to work, don't work. That's such a great point. We've taken some rest at the end of the week. When did you come to this, to realizing that this is important to do? Was it a long time ago or maybe recently?
Yeah, good question. It's definitely been a while, and you read about it in different books and sermons. You hear, the encouragement to do it. So yeah, it's probably been decades, and not that I'm always great at it, but I've gotten into a pretty good habit of trying to get everything done more in 6 days so that I can stop on that 7th day and just take it easy and have some deeper time with him.
Why it's so important?
I think that it's definitely a kind command from God. He's really encouraging us for our own good.
Definitely.
And a lot of good comes from it. Like, it's one funny thing too is that after not working for 24 hours, you're sort of like really ready to work again. And it's almost like you're more energized to get back to work and appreciating work because you had to stop, versus if you just went on and on, 7 days a week forever. So I think that's good. It makes you appreciate the other 6 days of being able to work. But then, and then just being able to not be burnt out, to be able to get some rest and relaxation and have that, more quiet time and longer periods of time with God than I might be able to do on a regular work day when I've got to, get to school, get home, do different things like that, is just a real blessing.
Mm-hmm. And as the president of school, I know that you have a lot on your plate. I can only imagine. How are you able to do that? Do you have any life hacks on time management, maybe?
Yeah, no, good question. I think there's a principle. I forget what the name of the principle is, but it's basically the idea that the work expands to the time you give it, And so if you sort of just tell yourself, I'm only giving it these 6 days, then you find a way to, say no to some things, to, more efficiently get other things done, delegate some other things. So just by making that choice to say I'm going to keep work within these 6 days, sort of forces you to even learn, to what things you might even need to give away in order to cut it down to 6 days. So some people who are currently working 7 days might need to actually give some things up in order to make it work, you know. But that's been helpful. One book that's been helpful for me is Getting Things Done by David Allen. You know, he's got some good ideas that help me sort of keep it organized and know all the things I am responsible for, and making sure I'm taking care of those. So those are a few thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And the last question, do you remember the moment in your life when you first realized that God is God?
Yeah.
The moment of the encounter with Him.
Sure. Can I tell you a little backstory for it too? Yeah. So I was in 6th grade, and my parents didn't take me to church or anything, and so I was an atheist, and I thought that if people who believed in God were crazy, you know, why would you believe in something that you can't see or have proof of? And but then one day, oddly enough, I was getting off the school bus, my friend and I, and a guy pulled up and asked us for directions to somebody's house. And so we told him where we thought that house was. And then he asked us if we were saved. And I said, I don't even know what that means, you know. And so he tried to explain. And then he asked me if we would want to come to his church. And I don't know why I said yes, you know, which is funny because I was against God and even spoke out against people who believed. But for some reason, when he invited me to church, I said sure. And so he said he'd send out the church van to pick us up, and he did that, and I just started going and never stopped. And after, I don't know, probably a month or two of going to church and hearing, you know, the Sunday school messages as well as the pastor teach, the pastor gave an opportunity to come down the aisle and pray to receive Christ, and I did. So I just kept on going from there and never stopped.
So it wasn't just a moment, it was constant growth.
Yeah, it was, you know, I think the initial invitation to church, and then just hearing the gospel, hearing people teach the Bible, you know, I came to realize, I mean, God changed my mind to go from not believing to realizing, I think this really is true, and I do need Jesus.
And who was the person maybe who influenced you the most as a believer?
Through later years, maybe yeah. Good question. Definitely a lot of good people, you know, poured into me. But one that stands out probably in those earlier years of high school was a guy named Greg Rose. He was my youth pastor, and he just seemed to be such a true, genuine believer, and a lot of fun, and loved people, and invested a lot of time in me and spending time with me, encouraging me in my walk with God, and so yeah, Greg Rose.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being so sincere, and thank you for sharing your heart with us, your wisdom. It is precious.
I'm humbled and honored to be able to have the time to talk about these things, so thank you. Really appreciate it.